one here. No, I know.
The 7 people that I know by name will take it.
People.
It doesn't care about that stuff at work.
Enjoying the Zen before the storm. Right.
Alright, where are we sitting? You have a seat already or no?
I abstractly here. Here? We should have this. So,
We're actually pretty good right now. It's you, or here, there.
Yeah.
Then Joanna.
so you're there.
I'm in the green.
Yes.
Hey, it can be your
Is this your,
Oh,
is this your guy? No, it's not your
Hi.
Sorry, I got distracted for 2 seconds. It's nice to meet you. Yeah, I hear so much about you. Good things. Yeah, they do.
Words.
Remember the word for microphone and
But when you feel up to it, you're receiving order. So you're next meeting? Yeah, next meeting. We're right. Awesome. Love the pattern. We were thinking the same thing.
Yay.
That was my knee.
Oh, buddy.
That's okay.
Don't break yourself. We need you later.
Now.
Yeah, and later.
My joke earlier to myself, of course, was
Yeah.
that I had to make sure to rush through eating dinner because we didn't want to have WC. That would be just peel up.
If you keel over, I will gracefully introduce the next story, grab you, and then gracefully pull you out of
Just
the
drag me out.
Yeah, and then splash your face. Oh, see, you did this.
Just to remind myself.
I was gonna just destroy it.
Joanna, you are lining all up.
Okay, my first
Not like
in the circus box.
because y'all are gonna have to pass microphones.
Oh,
So
tell me when to be. I honestly just threw my stuff on a chair and I'm not
they're all there. And your stuff can stay wherever. So you are. Okay, does that mean I get to sit by Lynn?
Yes.
Yes. Which means that then Carrie gets to sit by me. Yep. Which means Al, sorry, I'm stealing Carrie from you.
It's just fine. Just for 5 minutes.
You can come be an MC. Okay, you want to do that? Or sit right behind us. But
They'll say weird things.
Yeah.
This is Laura. Thanks. I know.
So the curtains that hang right here, those are called the legs. Like it blocks the view from the backstage to the audience. And in vaudeville, you were only paid if you actually went on stage to perform, but there were always backup acts who could go to jail and people drive crazy. So if you broke the leg line, that meant you were on stage and you got paid for your performance. So break a leg is a hook to perform first.
Yes. So. Kate. You're gonna need microphone. Oh wait. Did you get these little batteries?
2 of them are full.
Are you sure everybody has programs? Then we're gonna get back to rehearsal right out there. Probably when we got ready. Okay. Why don't I grab that? Would you like a program?
Absolutely.
She's better.
Everyone knows me.
The number of times in my life I've been Kirk Palmer is really frustrating.
Well, I did do that mighty thing. All right. I can in fact consolidate. Oh, okay. So there's plenty of opportunities for touch. That's the next one. Okay. Sound. Yeah. Background set up out there. Perfect. Sounds good. So colors. Colors don't need more of them in. We shall replace our technology. NCs don't have to. You guys have your own lights.
Yeah. I see. Is there-
So click, they can all hear me.
No, I haven't put it down.
So, yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, from here.
Not right now, thank you, no. Maybe a dance card?
Oh, good.
Hello.
There you go.
Oh, thanks. Did you have that one?
Yes. I don't necessarily need one. I don't know how many we have. A lot of water. I make sure to come prepared.
This is my computer.
Oh, thanks. So heavy.
Yeah, that's the perfect place to put it, just right there.
Perfect.
The world must know. For me,
Yes.
no other reason. Fine.
I did see that, yeah, so you have the key.
Yeah, I agree with that. Tell us about it. Tell us about it. These are actually all done.
I'm pretty sure you didn't tell the story last year. It's just, you know,
I kind of remember.
it wasn't long at all. You just, we were so, you just flew right by it.
Very important, right? I didn't say anything important for 25
It
minutes.
was just amazing. Yeah, that, no, that was gonna happen. I'm so sorry about my mom.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking. I'm gonna show her this, and I'll bring it right back.
Oh, look, there I am.
It's adorable.
We should stand in front of them with the same cups.
Honestly, I can still do all the choreography I had.
I actually now want to do what you
It's okay. Yeah.
And somebody else is telling us.
Well, I will tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody's.
Yeah, no, I usually start at the time, okay.
Yeah, I don't have a certain instance of every once in a while my lower back will just be like, hey, Tyler.
Hey, you're over 18.
I know, it's just like dying of the
That's the question.
That was Yeah, I had it together. Arizona Redships. So I got an MRI. I was like, I'm going to record by.
I'm gonna have
It's
a
on.
flashing light or email.
Okay, great. I'll use it for you. I'm 17. This is great.
That was great. We just do that.
You didn't know that's what-
You didn't remember. Even if you put us in that situation.
Pretty good. It was a month straight. Talking to Hispanic people January.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got that email. There's a, they sent out a, yeah, like the chancellor sent out an email, not describing it, but being like, as everyone knows. The police. Yeah, sure. Do not cancel class. So I'm like, saying this email. Meeting ends, and I'm like, okay. And they kind of talk about unofficial, and I'm like, okay, it's nonsense. Related to me. But at home, universities, like, they each have a holiday they're responsible for the young adults. Like Southern takes Halloween, we get sick pictures of things, and they just give them up. Because people just yeah, they just travel. Or they get yeah, because undergrads. Why?
We can do that. Talking about actually jumping around. It's
Okay, which makes way more sense. It's tragic. It's tragic, but it's like along the lines of like, okay, drunken behavior leads to acts. Yeah. Okay. So I work for the insurance team as a team, so I deal with mostly administrators. I handle this things, just to make sure that the admin team has the figure on the pulse of what's going on over there. And they're like, yeah, our officials always hand way for us, students. At least one person doesn't show up. It's great. Yeah. Or if they do it, never do it. Our lecturer was work.
The paparazzi moment. Don't get in the way.
Yeah, and I don't understand.
You know. You know.
Why do you need to
Yeah,
It's not really stories for kids. They're like,
I'm not sure.
grown up stories.
Because the ethics issue, I thought, wasn't until.
Watch you get called up too.
It's a minute. 16 days. Oh my gosh. You don't understand. Just get it behind you. It is. Yeah.
Things were like if your roommate got called out, even if you were not, you had to get like signed sworn statements from everybody involved that you did not know anything about it. You could be in another state.
And you and I know it.
And you would get the same punishment as the rest of them. Like, bizarre. Their safety services outside parties just to make sure things stay. And like, if somebody needed to get home, like they would help them get some sleep. Less people in the house to make sure. No. I'm very intrigued to hear.
I have not heard you about, you know, refuse to practice. Yeah. That sounds like
A really weird way to describe the castle. So it's almost kind of like taking the known like racial ability of like being deeper and like taking it to the next level.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
I'm not sure if the process is not sure if it's there, but yeah, that's a dependent thing. But again, really, it's I'm so much stress, especially things.
Down here. And like, we're all stressed. And so we resolve our fear because our road has history with umbrella blossom. Like her girlfriend. She's like, hi. Cool. Trying to fit you in and everything. You just need to like so we're like, what
I would actually, thank you.
Maybe I thought
maybe on the way back.
So like these are more dirty ones. So no. I know, but I got others. Maybe it's so they. On my shoulder, it was like
Like you turn in directions and it's just picturesque mountains and it's like. So. It's already on the list.
This is falling down. I don't want it to fall down.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on out. We're excited. That's a pleasure. This is like
It's just like.
I was gonna say, you know, you're like an art person.
One of the things. Never. So finals in Yeah, there's the funny part, but also.
This be in your way.
I said, here's my
this would be my question. I feel like
Yeah, I think that's better than leaning against the chair. I'm okay with that.
I would love that.
it's about What is it that gives you, like, what's the top of the list? That's the hard part. It's kind of fun though too.
Good evening. Hello. I like your response greeting. Hello. How are you doing? Hi, Betsy. I feel like I'm on Romper Room. Thank you all for coming out. I'm Deborah Stevenson. I'm the director of the Center for Children's Books, and this is our annual storytelling festival. This year we're going a little different direction, and it's students and an alum and professor telling their stories in stories like yours. And I'm going to quickly just pass over to Kate McDowell, who's going to tell you more about what's going to happen.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thanks for being here, everybody. So we did something completely different this year, and it had everything to do with doing a collaboration with student affairs, where we said, hey, maybe if we could get more stories of what brings people to the iSchool, then we'd be able to share those in different ways. So we're recording things tonight the way that we do, and tonight's stories are all personal stories. I don't think this is a permanent transformation of the festival. For those of you who miss folktales, I also love folktales. So just know that this is an experiment for this year, while we're all doing some different things, and it seems to have worked out very well. So it falls to me to tell the first story, which is called Coming Home to the iSchool. And it's really about how I never expected to get a PhD in my life. I really didn't. I didn't think I was going to do that. Some of you know this personally. I was positive that I wanted a master's degree in library and information science, and I was going to be a children's librarian. And I was. I did that, and I really, really liked it. And then something started to happen. I had a lot of jobs actually at the time. I was a children's librarian. I was working as a reviewer for the Bulletin at the Center for Children's Books. I was adjuncting for the school, teaching children's literature. I was teaching young adult literature. And one night, it was 2002. And in fact, it was 9/11, 2002. It was one of these moments when a lot of people were probably reflecting in some of the ways that I was reflecting at that moment, where I was thinking about human frailty and purpose and meaning. And I stayed up really late writing and writing and writing. And when I got up in the morning and looked at what I'd written, it was more or less a proposal for a potential dissertation. I know you were thinking reflective poetry or something a little more confessional, but that just turns out to be what it was. So I looked at that, and I looked at the PhD application requirements, and I went ahead and submitted my application. Well, back at Urbana Free Library, there was a lot of exciting stuff going on. Specifically, we were getting ready for the biggest building renovation since the 1970s, and it was going to be massive. And we had a couple of really exciting things and a few problems. One of the problems was that in the old children's department, some of you might remember this, the 1970s renovation had these ceilings. They were made of concrete, poured concrete. I don't know how they got these suspended in the air, but they were poured concrete with sort of like waffles, like a gigantic waffle kind of pressing down upon your being. And in the middle of each of those squares of the waffle, there was a little can light that had a tiny stream of light that just sort of made it down to near where the books were and appeared underneath. So that was not good, and we needed to find some way to renovate that. But tearing out a concrete ceiling is a lot harder than putting one in. So we knew we had to cover that ceiling over. But when we did that, the ceiling was still going to be really low. Even if we made it light or bright or airy looking, it was still going to be a really low ceiling. So I'm sitting at this table having this conversation with Lynn Harmon and Elaine Beard and other children's librarians at the Urbana Free Library. And Lynn says, hey, why don't we dig the basement down? Why don't we not take for granted the assumed foundation of this space? Why don't we, instead of just taking the limits of the ceiling, why don't we just go further down, dig under the old foundation, get deeper than where we thought we were going to go to make the new children's department? And if you go into Urbana Free Library today, you will see that that is indeed what they did. There are steps going into the library, or a ramp to the side, or these carpeted steps in Megan's room over on the other side. And those are the ways that you get into the children's department, where we dug the foundation deeper than we knew it was going to be. So the construction was starting. We were all excited. I had gotten into the PhD program. I was really excited about that. And I was thinking about how I would probably go part-time to the PhD program, and I would be part-time as a children's librarian. And I knew that I was going to enjoy that. I was just really enthusiastic about it until the construction actually started. Some of you have met me before, so you know where this is going. I'm allergic to dust and mold and pollen and dust mites and cats and dogs and horses and cows and dairy and gluten. So I'm sensitive. And I was the canary in the coal mine. I kept coming into work and coming into work and coming into work, and I was having asthma attacks and things were not going well. And finally, my doctor said, if you don't stop going into that library, I'm going to put you in the hospital. That got my attention. I am stubborn, I'm not fast. So I realized I had to do this thing that I hadn't done, and I didn't even know how long. In fact, it took a lot of persuasion for me to do this. And I needed a fair amount of moral support, which was take a summer off. I know that's not something most of you probably have had a lot of trouble with. I had a lot of trouble taking the summer off. It was extremely, if some of you relate to this, it was extremely difficult. It's harder than it sounds. So I took the summer off. In the fall, I started the PhD program. And I have to say, it really was such a joy to come home to the iSchool. And if, in some ways, you might say the rest is history. Or you might say the past is prologue. Because when I think about the iSchool as home now, I think about the incredible intersection of people and information and technology that we reside in, always facing the people. And I also think about the future, 10 years out, when there will be undergraduates whose identities are formed, whose ideas of the world are shaped, whose knowledge is based on what we know about information and service to people. And that is what makes me proud to call iSchool my home.
Hi, fancy seeing you here.
I know, right? So, my name's Nora, and I'm one of your MCs for the night.
My name is Rachel, and I am the co-MC for tonight.
That's right. Now, before we begin, a quick introduction of ourselves. I am a second-year grad student here. How about you?
I am also in my second year here.
Wow!
Crazy, right?
What's up with that? I'm currently job hunting for the children's librarian. What about you?
I'm looking really hard for a job with health insurance.
She's the practical one. Just get used to it. So it's not about us
I've only ever seen Phoebe knitting. It's incredible.
Always.
She's such a creative spirit.
We love her. Here is not the only weird one.
Okay, so, I'm Phoebe, and I was the weird one in cheer camp. I was the one who wore the wrong clothes and was a little too obsessed with dragons for a little too long. It did not help that I was the only kid in my grade with a learning disability. It was isolating, and needless to say, I hated school. I hated going to tutoring when all of my classmates could go to the movies. I hated sitting alone in the corner during recess with a comic book because I didn't understand what everyone else was talking about. And I really hated sitting in class, having failed a test for the second week in a row, while my teacher says, we all need to continue to improve. And the boy sitting right in front of me goes, I got 100. How can I improve on this? I really hated school. But I love learning. Love knowing random stuff. I like doing projects with stuff I know. But that was never something I could do at school. Thank God for the library. That was where I could go to learn, to explore, to challenge myself without having the failing grades. So by high school, I was volunteering in the library, and I decided this is what I want to do with my life. But as most people in this room know, to work in a library, you need more school. So, okay, I can grit my teeth, I can get through this, or so I told myself. And I did. I went to college. I went to every professor every semester and explained my difficulties. I wrote every paper at least 3 times to get a B, while my friend would write the same paper 3 hours before the deadline and get an A. But on some level, I was the kid sitting alone in my dorm room, rewatching Batman the Animated Series for the 3rd time, while all of my friends were working on honors projects to graduate college with honors and mock theses. And I just couldn't do that. But I did make it to the iSchool, made it through college, and I made it here. And on the one hand, I was meeting all of these great people, and I was loving what we were discussing in my classes, and I really loved libraries. But there was still this voice in the back of my head going, oh my God, why did you do this? This is 2 more years of school. You could have just been done. So I had this going on in my head for months. But I like libraries, but I really hate school. And yeah, I was still going back and forth on this when October came around, and with it, Halloween. And being a kid who rewatched all the cartoons and read the comics and was too obsessed with dragons, I still dress up for Halloween. So I got dressed for Halloween. And I came to the iSchool, to this room for 501, and all of my friends were dressed for Halloween. There were faculty members dressed for Halloween. There was a witch sitting next to me and a Miss Frizzle 2 seats over, and it was just like a light bulb. This is where I'm supposed to be. I still really hate school, but at least I am not the only weird one.
Thank you very much, Phoebe.
You know, I'm definitely not one of those weird ones that she talked about.
No, I'm not one of those either.
Oh.
So, moving on from that, our next teller is Kiri. They are a first year here and is a self-contained theater.
They are also my coworker, and I'm so delighted to get to say that.
And I'm so jealous that you get to say
say that.
Here is the Sky Fort.
And the theater nerd now about having mic issues. My reputation. So as our lovely and talented MCs said already, I'm Carrie and I'm a first year student. It's actually kind of funny, I didn't grow up too far from here, so I've been aware of the University of Illinois my entire life. But I didn't know there was a library school here until about 10 years ago. I also didn't know that people went to library school until about 10 years ago. So I'm a little bit more well-versed than I used to be at that point. But I'm from Normal, Illinois, which is home of Illinois State University. Go Redbirds. Back when I was growing up, all of the towny kids went to ISU, and all the rich kids went to U of I. So my family was a towny family, which meant everybody went to ISU. My parents have 2.5 degrees between them for ISU, I think. I have aunts and uncles who have, I think, 5 altogether. So when I got into the iSchool here, I was a little nervous about telling my parents that I went to U of I because I was a clan traitor, of course. Here. When I was first coming here, I was doing one of the visit days, and I think it was Dean Rainier said from the podium, looking very official, that Illinois has the #1 library school in the whole country. And I said, that can't be right. Illinois is the #1 corn producer in the country. Maybe his cards got shuffled. I heard someone else say the same thing, and someone else said the same thing, and then I read it in some very reputable magazine of some sort. And then I got in, and then I found out it was the school I could afford. And I thought that seems significant. So now I am an iSchool librarian in training, class of 2020, which I think has a pretty good ring to it. But going back a little bit to growing up in Normal, Illinois, I didn't come from what you would call a broken family. My parents got married in 1976, and they're still married to this very day. So looking in from the outside, we seem very normal, very healthy. My parents, my older brother, me, big dog. There's even a white fence in our backyard, if you can believe that. But looks can be deceiving. Ours certainly were. Both of my parents worked full time, so it was just me and my big brother a lot. And during the school year, it wasn't so bad. School got out at 3. My mom got home a little bit before 5. So that was a couple of hours I could usually entertain my brother, put him in front of the TV, and I'd go hide in my room until my mom got home. But during summer, no school, a little bit different. And I couldn't hide from my brother all summer long. And my brother started turning into a monster. So I couldn't hide from my room. I didn't think I could hide anywhere. But there was one place that I could escape to. One place that I could almost always talk my brother into going to with me. We only lived a few blocks from our local library, and it wasn't too far, so my parents were all right with us going there as long as we were together, but going there without an adult. And it was a very long walk for short little legs on hot summer days, and it was on a college campus, so broken bottles all over the sidewalk, trying to find the shade every time you passed a tree, but we went almost every day. And we would carry these big bags full of our books from our house to the book drop, and then again from the library to the house. But every day we would make that trip. Sometimes my brother would take me to the library and he'd leave me there. It was not too far from the downtown area, so comic book shops, convenience stores, plenty of opportunities for a relatively intelligent young man to get in trouble, but that didn't bother me so much. I could stay at the library. And sometimes my brother would decide to stay at the library too, and stay downstairs with the horror novels and the graphic novels. That was okay too. I would go upstairs to the children's section. That place was paradise. Get up there, hundreds of books. And there's CDs, and there's tapes, and there's computers, and there's Oregon Trail. 2. That's the good one. But on top of all that, there's Sky Fort. Sky Fort was this little structure that was built right across from where the librarian sat. Down on the lower level, there were these holes you had to climb through to get into it. Then there was a stairway, ladder really, that you would climb up. Up on the second floor of the ladder, pillows and bean bags, all sorts of comfy spots where you could take your hoard of books and stay up there for hours. And there were these little windows along the exterior so you could look out at what was going on in the children's department, but it was a little bit harder to look into it. And my brother, he wasn't tall enough to see into the windows on the top level. It was just a little bit too big to climb through the holes on the bottom. So I could go up there and go into the Sky Fort, and I'd disappear. After a few hours, here would come my brother stomping and yelling, "Get down here, let's go home!" But he couldn't come get me, so I didn't go. Sometimes he'd make too big of a fuss, and sometimes I'll go home with you. Usually wasn't a good afternoon after that. But a lot of times, I just ignore him. He gets tired of it, he'd go home without me. A few hours later, 5 o'clock, here's my mother's face peeking in. "Hey kid, let's go home." "Okay, Ma, I'm coming." In the children's department, there was also Miss Nellie and Miss Sarah, the librarians. Greatest librarian in the world. They always saw me coming, and somehow they always had my favorite books ready to go. Every time. I read the same books every summer my entire life, every week of every summer, and they were always there. It was miraculous. And they'd see me come up and they'd say, "Do your parents know that you've moved in here?" "No." "Did you remember to eat your lunch before you came?" I forgot to eat lunch a lot. "Did you remember to go to the bathroom before you went up there?" Forgot to go to the bathroom a lot. Looking back on it now, I kind of wonder if they knew what was going on. They saw me come in all the time. They saw my brother's temper tantrums and put 2 and 2 together. But at the time, it didn't matter because they were there. And my books were there, and the Sky Fort was there, and it was safe. And I could hide, and no one could ever stop me. So, years passed. Got a little older. My brother moved out eventually. And the weight of what my life had been sort of fell on me. And I started to realize that all those summers, that wasn't normal. That wasn't healthy. And after a while, the library got renovated. And the Sky Fort got turned down. They put something new there, something for some other kid to spend their summer in. When I heard about it, I started crying, but at the time, I didn't really know why. It's just a library, just a place. So a few years passed, went to school, went to therapy, got out of school, moved away, started working. And there's this thing that sort of happens to you when you can't deal with what's going on the inside. So you start sort of focusing on what's happening outside of you. And you start to think, if I can hold down a job, if I can feed my cat, if I can occasionally go out and have a good time, then, I'm getting a passing grade in adulthood, everything's fine. But why? It doesn't work that way. And you just sort of sit in neutral for a few years. So after a while, I met this guy. And he started asking me all these questions about, what do you want to do anyway? What do you want to do with your life that you haven't done already? Do you want to do something? Do you want to leave some sort of impact on the universe? You can't be happy like this. And I thought, well, that's rude. But he was persistent, and he kept asking me these questions over and over again. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? Finally, one day, I started actually thinking about it. And I started kind of wanting to answer him, which I wasn't okay with. And I came to him, I said, you know, I've been thinking about what you said. And I think you're right. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something instead. And he said, okay, well, smart aleck, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be like Miss Sarah and Miss Nellie. I want to be there for one of those kids who doesn't have anywhere to go in the summer. I want to build them a sky fort. I want to be the place where they go, where they can be safe. He said, that sounds pretty good. How are you going to do it? And I said, well, I guess I'll be a librarian.
Thank you so much, Carrie.
All right, our next teller is Joanna. She is a second year grad student.
She is also one of the absolutely most friendly people I have met in my time here at the iSchool. Totally wonderful. Here she is with By Accident.
Man, Carrie makes me cry. You guys make me blush. Hopefully I can manage to make you guys laugh. So, in the year 2017, I was recently married to my favorite person. And life was looking pretty good. We were house sitting for a friend, didn't have a place of our own. And that's what we really wanted. We kept looking for houses, you know? And we didn't need something fancy, something grand, just something where we didn't have to worry about the owners coming home and finding the dishes in the sink, or a place where we could plant flowers in the front yard, have our dog actually live with us, and paint the front door whatever color we wanted. But there was a minor problem. You see, at the same time that we desperately wanted a house, I desperately wanted to come to grad school. And not just any grad school. I wanted to come here to the iSchool. I had already gotten in and had to defer because of financial issues. And it felt like my time was running out. But it was visit time. So I decided that I was going to pretend like it was possible. Like I was really going to be a student. And so I came to visit day. And I went to talk to the employers, you see. My one hope was an assistantship. Because if I could get a job with an assistantship, well then, I could get paid to go to grad school instead of paying to go to grad school. And I could afford that. So I talked to every employer who came to visit day who had an assistantship that they were offering. And I still had time afterwards. I looked around, figuring what I would do with my last 15 minutes or so. And I saw this woman in the corner wearing a lovely flowered dress who wasn't talking to anyone. So I went over and I said hi, and I told her that her dress was pretty. Well, by the end of that conversation, this woman, whose name was Stephanie, had managed to convince me to apply for the job she was offering. Never mind that it was with Help Desk ITD, and I didn't feel that comfortable with technology at the time. And there was no assistantship. But I promised that I would apply. And I keep my promises. And so I did. I few days later, I got on the computer to look for this job. But I couldn't find it. Instead, I found a position at Help Desk ITV that was an assistantship. Well, I applied for that thing so fast, it was a little bit too fast. And I may have forgotten to attach my cover letter and resume. So I sent a quick follow-up email that said, hey, so much for looking tech savvy, right? Sent those things along. Do you think I got that job? No, I did not get that job. But a few months later, I got an email from Stephanie, which said that another position had opened up. Would I like to come and have an interview for it? Yes. Yes, I would. So the day of the interview came, and I hopped in my car, and I was running early. I was gonna get here, and I realized about a quarter of the way here that I had forgotten to change for the meters. Okay, I still had time. I turned around and got the change and started going. I was gonna be on time now. And I hit construction. Well, construction plus one-way streets plus Joanna equals going in circles. So I managed to get here to the iSchool at 10 a.m., the exact time that my interview was supposed to start. I had made it to the right place, or had I? You see, at that moment, I suddenly became completely unsure as to whether the help desk was actually in the iSchool or in the main library. It was okay. Technology was going to save the day. I pulled out my phone. I'm checking my email, make sure I was at the right spot, and my data was out. Okay, I can call my mom. So I called my mom, had her check my email, and she did not pick up. Thanks, Mom. So I did what I should have done from the very beginning, and I called my friend Emily, who was going here to the high school at the time. And she was right. She told me that, yes, I was in the right spot. It was going to be okay. All I had to do was get to the second floor. Well, that involves finding an open door. So I went around the building looking for an open door, and the only one I could find that was unlocked opened that awkward little lobby that seemingly has nothing except for an elevator. Okay, I pressed the button, I hopped in the elevator, punched the number 2, and I'm going up, and the elevator stopped, but the doors didn't open. Right. Okay. I was standing there trying to figure out whether to call my friend Emily and have her call Stephanie and tell her that I was there. Just in the elevator. And then the doors opened. I went down the hall and I found the right place, and I was 7 minutes late. But when I told them about the elevator, they laughed with me. It was okay. So I sat down and I met these great people and had a fabulous interview. They told me stories, I told them stories. They asked me what had led me to apply for this position in the first place. And I told them what I just told you about Stephanie and said, well, you see, in my life, well, some people would call it karma. I call it God. For whatever reason, the best things, well, they happen by accident. They chuckled a little bit at that. And then I left. Stephanie told me that she would call me, email me in a couple days. And I didn't get an email from Stephanie. But I got an email from Jill. Jill was awesome in this interview. And she told me that when I said the best things happen by accident, it kind of stuck out to her because, well, see, just an hour before, she had accepted a position in a different part of the iSchool, in alumni affairs. And just minutes before the interview, she had found out that her graduate assistant there was graduating, and she needed to replace her. Would I like to come and work with Jill in alumni affairs? Yes. Yes, Jill, I would. And so I did. And we were building the airplane while we were flying it, like Jill used to say. And it was hard. And it was great, same as grad school. Hard, but great. I was happy. And a few months later, my dear sweet Callan and I found a house. And we planted black-eyed Susans in the front yard, let our dog run wild in the backyard. And the front door, we painted it green on the outside and yellow on the inside.
Thank you very much, Joanna.
You know that job Joanna was talking about that she didn't get? That's how I came to the iSchool. But that's a story for a different night.
My next story comes from Lindsay. He is a first semester student here, and I have to say, I would never have been this brave to do something like this in my first semester, so I really just want to give him props for doing it.
Lyndon is here chasing his new dream. This is The Library Found Me.
Oh, I found a new dream. A better research dream. A more well thought out dream. A dream with potential. I cried to my therapist about losing my old dream. Now, there's anecdotal evidence from other transgender people who start testosterone that you cry less, but I just never cried until I lost my dream. I was going to be the biggest and the best, the greatest archaeology ever saw. I even won an award at my old job, most likely to be the next Indiana Jones, but less racist and sexist and stuff. But when I entered my PhD program and arrived there, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, I found I just couldn't cut it. I was falling behind in my classes, I couldn't do the work, and I found myself wanting to step into more and more dangerous situations because I was just so miserable. So I did what I should have done long ago. I sought out help. Now, I love arts and crafts. They keep me right. So when a fellow patient offered me pages from the coloring book their mom had brought them, and an occupational therapist got some shiny new markers to replace the dried up old ones, I about cried. But not quite. Still got the testosterone. So I'm out. I'm treated. What am I going to do now? I worked briefly as a custom framer. Do not recommend that. They told me I was bound to bleed eventually from cutting the glass for artwork. Just don't bleed on the artwork. Yeah, unbelievable. So I get out of custom framing as quick as I can, and I tell everyone I know that I'm looking for a low-stress job that won't provoke all my anxieties while I'm healing from the rough time I had in grad school. Low stress, says a fellow alum of my undergrad. I don't know about that, but working in libraries can be good. This is seconded by others, and before I know it, I'm catapulted off onto my new path as I latch on with all limbs to this new dream like an enthusiastic octopus. So I apply for every library job within a 15-mile radius. I have some interviews, and I get one at Forest Park. Oh, Forest Park. The same town I went to high school in had a library that was willing to take a chance on me despite the huge time gap in my resume, where they let me shelve their books, which I did with pride for 5 months, all the while learning from the children's librarians in their children's department. Now, in that children's department, they have a train set that was very, very popular. And there was a grandson and grandfather who would come to play with the trains. The grandfather was learning Spanish so he could communicate with his grandson. And I'm learning Spanish too. So I would communicate with the grandfather, practicing my greetings. Now, the combination of toddler speak and learning a new language for me was often too much for me to understand what the grandson was saying, but I practiced with him sometimes too. Now, one time they were there looking for a particular DVD, a documentary about space, because the grandson loved the explosions in it. I had trouble finding it for them on the shelf, and it hit me. When nobody in the library organizes the things on the shelves, you can't access the wealth of information that they contain. On that day, I felt like my job in the library was really, really important, and like I should continue on that path. So, inspired by the grandson and his love of space explosions, I applied for every library children's department job in a 30-mile radius, because we really don't want a repeat of that archaeology disaster. So, I have some interviews, and I get one at River Forest. Oh, River Forest. The library that took a chance on me despite no recent formal experience working with kids, where I had a chance to develop my own diverse collection of books, where my boss told me on day one how excited she was to have another queer person working at the library. And oh, the arts and crafts of that library. There was one little girl who'd come up to me and first ask for one piece of paper, and then another, and then a box of markers, and then staples, and then tape, and then she would reveal her creation. A multi-story dream house of epic proportions. Now, I'm guilty of doodling a dream home or two in my time as well, so I really like this. And it was just great to see her creations, because it was really showed how the library was the vehicle for her creativity and how imagination can be brought to life in the library for these kids. So, inspired by that little girl and so many others, I decided to apply to the iSchool, and I came here. Oh, iSchool. The place that took a chance on me. And everyone was really sad to see me go to come here, but they all encouraged me the whole way. So I visit them every time I go north to see everyone that inspired me. So if you ever lose one dream, you could always find another. All you have to do is ask for help. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lyndon.
Our next teller is Deborah. She is a first-year grad student here, and she currently works at
She also once accidentally adopted 4 poodles. Ask her to tell you about it. It's a good story.
but that's for another day.
Right now, here is lesson 206. Lesson 206. A funny thing happened on the way to the high school. No, really. I learned about 206 lessons on my trek to enrolling as a master's student here at the Library and Information Science program at the University of Illinois. It all started in Normal, Illinois. I grew up in Normal. I grew up like many of you in a very loving home with books everywhere. My mother was a stay-at-home mother, and my father was a professor of children's literature. He was also a storyteller. He would tell folk tales at the schools and the public libraries. So I grew up hearing stories in my own home, stories like the Twistmouth family, with father, mother, brother, sister, and college boy, where they were struggling to blow the candle out, and they called for college boy to come help them. And he did.
Or Ricky Tikki Tembo, I Sai Rembo, Cherry Berry Rich Perry Pembo, and his brother, Chen. Through these stories and so many others, I learned morals. I learned life lessons about integrity, honesty, empathy, hard work, patience, caring. I was stronger through story. As I continued my time in Normal, Illinois, I tried to incorporate story as much as I could in my extracurricular activities. So I did things like speech team, drama, literary festivals, and then I found music. My family was not a musical family, so I did not grow up with music all around me. So when I discovered the stories in music, I was blown away. The emotional moments and motives, the silence, the crescendos, the hero's journey, the rising climax, all of these things were so moving to me. So when I went to apply to college, I tried to decide between communications and music. But my love of music, my passion for music won out, and I became a flip performance major here at the University of Illinois. I had a great 4 years, and then I went on to do a 2-decade career in arts administration, where I learned that I was actually combining my love of music with my ability to tell stories about the impact of the arts to inspire donors for organizations such as the Chicago Symphony Orchestra and Kranick Center for the Performing Arts. I was stronger through story. Then my husband and I had 2 beautiful daughters, 6 years apart, and we did everything in our power to create a magical childhood for them. We went hiking, we went camping, we told campfire stories. There was always music and dancing and food and books and stories. We were stronger through sharing our story. When my younger daughter was 6 months old, she developed an intensely swollen cheek. We took her to the doctor. The doctor immediately sent us to a specialist. The specialist immediately sent us to CT scans, x-rays, and MRIs, where we learned that my baby, my beautiful little baby, had a lemon-sized tumor in her jaw that had already eaten her jawbone from her ear to the middle of her mandible and was encroaching the base of her skull. She had major surgery to successfully remove that tumor, and over the next 5 years, underwent reconstructive surgeries, many of them. One took her fibula and put it into her jaw and made her a new jawbone. Another took the iliac crest bone and thickened and strengthened that jawbone. Her older sister did not want to be left out of the less than 206 bone club. She started to develop intense pain from the top of her head to the very tips of her fingers. Her story is a little harder. The diagnosis was harder to get to. After 18 months of countless doctors' visits and tests, we finally found a name for her invisible illness. She was diagnosed with bilateral neurogenic thoracic outlet syndrome. And the cure? To remove your first rib, cut your pec minors, and remove 2 scalenes from your neck. Both of my daughters are thriving, lovely, active, successful, fantastic girls. One of them is here today. They are stronger through their story. But what about me? For those of you who've had difficulties in your life, that was a stressful time in my life. And I did wonder, why did I go through 12 surgeries in 10 years with so many of them on my daughters? Why do my 2 daughters have less than 206 bones in their body? I decided it was because I am to share these stories. I am to tell the humorous moments of strength that we learned from these experiences. I am to tell my story about these experiences, and I will be stronger through that story. About 3 years ago then, I was sitting in a meeting at the College of Fine and Applied Arts executive team, and our own Kate McDowell came. She gave a lecture about an hour long about storytelling, about its theoretical applications, its history, its cultural references, and how we could use stories at work, stories in our nonprofit. I kid you not, the light bulb went off right then and there. I don't know if Kate remembers this, but I immediately called her and asked if we could talk further. She of course said yes, and I talked to Kate and many others to realize that I wanted to apply to the iSchool. So I did. Started my program in summer of 2018. Every single class, assignment, and moment that I've had at the iSchool so far has confirmed that I am indeed in the right place to write the next chapter of my story. The people I have met, the fantastic and wonderful people like Deborah Stevenson, Kate McDowell, Betsy Hearn, and so many others are even further demonstrations that the lessons that I am learning here at the iSchool will hopefully not only make me stronger, but make my community stronger through story. Through learning things like world history, storytelling, its history and its impact, data science story, and how we can tell our story in new ways. Together, we all can be stronger through story.
Thank you very much.
So we are now on to the part of our evening that is in fact all about thank yous. So first I have to say a huge thank you to the entire team, all sort of scattered out there and outside, that have made this evening possible. It really does take a village to make a storytelling festival.
We also want to take a moment to thank Kate McDowell for just being a wonderful professor and a person who guides many of us.
Along with telling fabulous stories in front of us.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure this school could not run without her.
Which is the Center for Children's Books, actually a research library here in the high school. If you haven't been there, you should check it out.
We have to thank the iSchool themselves, not only for providing the space that we are all sitting or standing in, but also because we literally would not be here without them telling our stories about coming here tonight.
And finally, we just want to thank the audience for being here and listening to the incredible stories we heard tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And without further ado, we can recess for some light refreshments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again, everyone.
You know what?
Oh, yeah.